Hi there, back again. I just had one very quick thought before I went to bed, um, and it's one I've been having for a while. Is I think that the far left, extreme left AOC style squad, the that section that seems to be kind of taking over the Democratic Party. I think that they should, rather than using that slightly underhanded tactic of primarying established Democrat candidates, they should. I mean, they're growing enough in size, and they do have a considerable size base, as I mentioned in previous videos. Again, the ideology, I don't think, certainly at this stage, is popular enough to win a general. But I think they could certainly start their own party and run on their own tickets. Because it would allow the Democratic Party to shore up their base and consolidate their mission, because otherwise, this, to me, as I've said in other videos, I don't have a dog in this fight. I just care deeply about politics and the political process. And just like over here in Westminster, we need a credible, strong opposition to a strong majority government. It's a bit different in the States, obviously, because you have a system that's basically designed to be dysfunctional. Although of course, over the years, the executive powers and privileges of the president have kind of increased, and roles have changed, and this has caused things to evolve over the years as to whoever's been in power at the time. But I do think that the Democrats are in danger of finding themselves just like Labour are over here in the UK, as they seem to be oblivious as to why they lost the last election, and they lost seats that they've held since 1935. People who reluctantly voted conservative right wing because they just could not go with this ideology. And somebody used an analogy, I might have put this in another video, but they use the analogy of if they put, say, someone from Islington in London, for example. I'm thinking of Jeremy Corbyn, I think that's his constituency, and put them together with somebody from what they call the Labour heartlands here in the UK, in the north. So similar to the kind of the Rust Belt in the States, where a lot of mining and lots of industrial jobs were lost through a conservative government, and everything was moved to the tertiary industries, financial services, IT, etc., very much the same as it is in America. And what they were saying is that those two people would not understand each other, and of course that wouldn't have been the case 20 years ago. The point being is that the new modern kind of leftist elite, this way of thinking that comes from universities and urban areas, have this progressive ideology that to your average working class voter it's just an anathema to them. It scares them. They don't know what it means. They don't have anything in common with it, and it scares them. And so it's very easy for conservatives to move left on economic policy than it is for left to move right on social issues. And this is the problem. And I think it would be a very interesting experiment both here and in the States, because we're going to have this problem. There's a movement that has sort of almost commandeered the Labour Party here in the UK called Momentum, who are full of these kind of millennial and younger kind of modern postmodernists, however you want to label them, this idea who've taken over the party, and like I said, have nothing in common with the traditional Labour voter. And this is exactly what's happened with the Democrats and the DNC in the States. And the strangest thing is conservatives, but the Republicans, the GOP, have thanks or no thanks, however you want to put it, to Donald Trump, have scooped up that massive voting block. And all the Democrats seem to have done, again, I'm going to study this in more detail, and I don't want to make throwaway comments and annoy people, but all they seem to have done is just accused people who evidently voted for Obama 2 times, the 2016 election, Sanders and Trump were actually on a lot of issues very similar, on China trade, for example, a lot of things. Just obviously economically, there was a difference, but so there were quite literally people who moved from Bernie to Trump, and yet this doesn't seem to have sunk in. So I think what would be really interesting is if that base, the Democratic Socialists of America and related groups, if they got together and did what they were doing, exactly what they're doing, so they could still primary Democrat seats, but actually go under a different ticket, rather than coming under the Democratic ticket, because I think it's inherently unfair, actually. I think AOC was quoted recently as saying, in a different country, there's no way I would be in the same party as Joe Biden. Well, then why are you in the same party as Joe Biden? Because he's been in that party for longer than you've been alive. So it seems a little bit cheeky thing to say. Why not start your own thing and see how successful that is? It may be a roaring success. It would do something fascinating to the electorate that we've never seen in America. Across Europe, we have these coalition governments. We have things that split up the vote. It would be very, very interesting to see, because of course what it would do actually is it would split the coastal vote. So the urban elite, college educated, votes, New York, California, and you would then provide a space for the Democrats to then start re-electing more traditional Democrats who are still left, but more centrist and just frankly more able to win an election. But what would be interesting is that you would have areas under control of this new party, but particularly locally down ticket, like I said, particularly in these metropolitan areas, and that would do something very interesting, particularly to presidential politics, because obviously, as Trump always says, he won a electoral college landslide, despite Hillary getting 3 million more votes. But of course, she took for granted Iowa was one of them, wasn't it? I mean, she took for granted that just the blue wall was impenetrable. And so she campaigned even harder in areas where actually she really was guaranteed that urban vote that was going to go blue regardless. So that's quite interesting. I don't think people always say, oh, it would just split the vote and it would be. But I don't think it would, because of course you've got this middle America versus the kind of coastal urban elite thing going on, and of course you've also got the issue of gun control and abortion, which are massive issues in US politics. Which a few people are being quoted as saying that apart from the obvious of this phenomenon of shootings being basically every single person who commits a heinous act of a shooting is clearly insane, clearly has mental issues, and there's I think in almost every case been a correlation where they've been medicated in some way. So that's something that needs to be looked into. But it's the gun debate is essentially a rural versus urban debate. And again, you don't tend to see too many of these. Don't take my word for it, but generally the amount of guns there are in the US and the amount of country pursuits and hunting and shooting and things that go on in rural areas compared to inner city violence is obviously, absolute chasm. So yeah, I just wanted to add that as a quick thought, because I don't think it would be as damaging to the vote as people think, and I think it would be very interesting, because we would see if these progressive policies work out in certain cities. People might be proved wrong. I mean, I'm a skeptic. I'm not one of these people that's just going to blanket say that everything about it is terrible. The word progressive obviously concerns me, because it implies there's no kind of end to it. And generally in life, you need goals to hit, and then certainly in my experience of life, you reach your goal, and then maybe you tweak certain things, but to always want to change something, certainly with my various businesses that I've had. If I had just had success and then thought that's not good enough, I need to change everything, the chances are would have gone bust. So I view a lot of these things from a business perspective. But again, I digress. I've gone on. It was another quick thought, a pre-bedtime thought. So there's 3 videos in one hit. Once again, I'm sorry to go on, but please, if you like any of this stuff, please comment, thumbs up, please subscribe. And also, one of the things I forget to ramble on about is click the notification bell. YouTubers seem to always say that as well. So yeah, I hope you like what I'm doing and find at least some of my comments interesting. Quality research, everything is going to get better, and obviously as we get into as we really get into the swing of things, I'm going to be studying the mainstream media and the print media, and really going into details and facts, and hopefully be a source of information for both sides, that isn't there just trying to disrespect one side or the other. If anything, I have a slight bent, ever so slight bent to the right, but I consider myself pretty much slap down the center when it comes to things like that. I'm basically common sense. I believe in common sense. So if it's evidence and fact based, and especially if I've seen examples of it working in similar scenarios, similar populations, similar GDP, etc., then I'm all for trying these things out. But these politicians that come up with ideas, many of them are career politicians. They've never run a business in their life. They've never taken the risk of putting literally their last $10 on in my case on a domain name, in order to get success, and not eating for 2 weeks and just praying orders come in. Politicians haven't had to do that, and of course that used to be their role. Initially, they were captains of industry, and they were people that had some other life experience other than just coming up with ideas and thinking that models and plans just can be implemented into the system, without really understanding the intricacies and the full depth of the system, and how many knock-on effects a very small change can have, whether it be positive or negative. Anyway, once again, I've gone on far too long again. As I said, please thumbs up, please subscribe, notification bell. Love you guys. I think I've got 15 subscribers or something, so please come on, let's crank it up, if you like what I'm doing, and I promise some even some much better content in the very near future. Thanks again, and see you in the next one. That'll be part 2. Cheers, guys.